Condos in Florida.
Condos.
Yes.
We love condos.
So we have some new rules that went into effect last year. The milestone inspections with the structural integrity reserve studies, those requirements, and the impacts for owners in these condo buildings.
And let's just say, at this particular moment in time, I feel like the only condos that are selling and doing really well are the really new ones. Mm-hmm. And when I say really new, I mean in the last few years, that they were CO'd in the last few years, and they're really new.
Yes.
Condos are struggling right now as they come under, and we sort of foresaw this, but as they come under these requirements of these milestone inspections and the structural integrity reserve studies and the assessments that are sometimes associated with that, or the fear that buyers have that they're going to have an assessment, they're struggling. I think it will clear back up.
Yes, I think it's going to take a couple of years, honestly, just because some of these assessments have increased so much to account for all of these things that need to be done.
Yes.
We'll start off a little bit, though, with what is the milestone inspection? And the milestone inspection is a structural inspection of an aging building that's used to determine if there's any substantial structural deterioration on the building. So a certified inspector that does structural inspections, I guess, is licensed by the state, has to go do that, and then they have to put a report together. So if you are a residential condo, I'm jumping ahead here into your spot.
That's fine.
Sorry. But if you're a residential condo or co-op, which is like a mixed ownership type of building in Florida, if you're 30 years of age or older, and then you do it every 10 years thereafter, or 25 years of age, if the local enforcement agency has determined that local circumstances require it to be performed at 25 years instead of 30 years. So where might that happen? Like if it's an oceanfront, maybe an potentially,
oceanfront, or they're having a problem maybe with
other
land.
buildings, maybe.
Yeah, like maybe they're seeing like the land is not stable in that area, so other buildings have had an issue, so they want all the buildings
and
in
isn't
that
it
area
if they're 3 or more stories?
3 or more stories.
Yes.
Must be 3 or more stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a 2-story would not have that done. And then one of the things we talked about is, and there's just a lot here, so we are going to be linking the location that you can find all these guidelines, because there's a lot of condo owners who are curious, did my building need a milestone inspection?
Some of them don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah, they don't know anything about it. Yeah. And I mean, I've talked to people who own condos recently. Yeah. I have one that's getting sold. I think next week we close. I have another new one that we're just talking about getting listed.
Yeah.
And when I was talking about these reports, he goes, where might I find those reports? And I'm like, you got to talk to your association.
The association is required to send them out. So if your association is doing them, but you can contact your association and ask, do we have a milestone inspection? Can I get a copy of it if you didn't get it, or for some reason don't have it? Same with the structural integrity reserve study. So we're going to talk about the fact there's a phase 1 and phase 2 for the milestone inspection. The phase 1 is a much more cursory sort of inspection. If they're seeing major structural defects, they're going to go into what's called a phase 2.
Right.
And that's going to really get down into the nitty gritty. And there is a list of things, which I didn't put on here because it was just so much, of the things that they actually look at as part of the phase 2. But it's a long list, probably 10 items that they really go into detail in the structural and look at these things.
Yeah.
So if your building requires a phase 2 inspection, it's very likely if they saw something in phase 1 that they're pushing to the phase 2, you're probably going to have some cost associated with that.
I would bet money on it.
Yes.
And staying up to date on this kind of thing that's happening in your association is so important, because it's good to be prepared, kind of know what you have coming up against you.
Yeah.
The phase 2 report, well, they both kind of lead into what's going to end up on your structural integrity reserve study.
Yes.
So that's a type of reserve study that ensures that the owners are contributing to a reserve funds that are going to be needed for future repairs and replacement of structural elements. It could be like your roof, the pool.
Yeah.
It can be driveway or the parking lot painting. It can be It's a whole host of things, right? It can even be down to like your little common area, little clubhouse, like that. The floors need to be redone, or we need to fix the kitchen in there, or something like that.
For years and years, well, since forever, before this came into effect, condos owners were allowed to opt out of funding their reserves. They could opt out completely. They could opt to fund partial. They had you would ask, where's the reserve study? 75% of them didn't have a reserve study.
And some of them that did, they were like, oh, we're going to resurface the pool. That'll be $500.
Right.
In what world?
Or their reserve study had 3 items on it instead of the 20 items that it should have.
Right.
It didn't show all the items. So
yes.
We think it's a good thing. It's painful. It's a little pain point right now. But at the end of it, it's a good thing, because pushing the can down the road with these maintenance items and these repairs can lead to catastrophe. So all the associations existing on or before July 1st, 2022 that are unit owner controlled, and that's when the developer turns it over to the unit owners, must have its service completed by 12/31/2024. If the milestone inspection was pushed out, and we didn't talk about that, but there's reasons why the milestone inspection could be pushed out to be a 12/31/2026, then the structural integrity reserve study can be pushed out to coincide with that.
Right.
The interesting thing is, I have a condo that I just am listing that was completed after 2022, and there's nothing in the law about that. We actually reached out to say, like, do they just wait the 10 years then?
Yeah.
They get, like, if you were completed by 2022, you have to have it done. Then everyone else gets to wait 10 years? I don't know. It's so confusing. There's a little loophole there or something. I don't
Here's
know.
another one that's interesting. The loophole about when do you have to start reserving for anything that pops up on that CSRS for that reserve study. If your budget was adopted on or before December 31st of 2024, then you can vote to waive or provide less than the required reserves through 2025, but then you would have to start funding in according with the reserve study for as of January 1st of 2026. So you kind of get like a 1 year
race.
But guess what? It's coming. And, in that 1 year, what if everybody knows it's coming and they just start selling or trying to sell?
This is the problem, is that people get wind of things, or the rumor gets around that maybe it might not even be true.
Right.
And you get panic people selling.
And we see that, panic selling sometimes. And that's when you ever see, like, we'll see it sometimes, like, oh, didn't another one just come up for sale in that same building? And it's not like it's like a complex of multiple buildings, because that can happen too. But like specifically, there's one building, there's like maybe 3 or 4 units on each floor. We don't have super high rises here. And like there's 10 units for sale in that building. Something's up.
Something's up. But I must say, I have that, I won't name the condo. There's all these units for sale. They did their CSRS. They look good. They didn't have a big adjustment in fees. You have a story about fee adjustments, but they didn't do a big adjustment in the monthly fees, and nothing's selling over there.
I still think, though, that their fee is high in that specific one for the price point of those units.
The fee is high, but here's the thing. When you have a nice building.
And it is nice.
Kind
it
of
has
a
nice
luxury
amenities.
building with 2 elevators in each building.
It's
and
gated.
And you have a pier, fishing pier. You're on the water, so your insurance is going to be a little bit higher. But when you have a nice building and you're trying to keep it nice, I mean, I think the days of people having like $350 a month, $350 a month assessments, that's gone. And if we go into Indian River County, which we also sell in Indian River, it's nothing to see a $3,500 a month assessment there.
No, I have one that's just south in Port St. Lucie County, and they bought in 2020. I think they closed in 2022. But since they closed on it, it has quadrupled, and now it's over $4,000 a month. They could afford it, and there's 21 units in the building, so that's a lot of money monthly. But I will tell you, it is a very nice building with very nice amenities. It's on the ocean. That you get what you pay for.
Yes, and the less units there are, generally speaking, the less risks that spread, but also that cost to maintain the building when there's only 21 units in a building and it's a beautiful building.
Yeah. You're all paying for that,
Yes.
you know?
Yep.
There's less people to help you in paying for that.
Yeah.
You know, there's not just with the condo like fees, but there's a townhome community here where every year their fees jump $100 and it's townhomes. And there's a lot of them. And I'm like, where is that money going? That's a whole different topic.
But when you look at, you know, and people get very upset when their fees go up, but as people, you and I, who own single family homes,
everything costs more to fix at our personal homes.
Things cost more to fix. The insurance goes up.
Yes.
At least $100 a month per year, right?
Yeah.
So we're paying more in insurance. That happens. The condo is covering the insurance on the building.
Yes.
They're not covering your contents, but they're covering the insurance on the building.
Yes.
That's going up.
Plus, like, think about it. For instance, a roof. They cost a lot more now than when I put one on back in like 2017.
Yeah.
And then like an HVAC unit, right?
Yeah.
Granted, if you're in a condo, you have to have the HVAC for your unit, but the building has to have central HVAC for the common space.
The garage doors, the doors that are shared, the pool resurfacing,
all the equipment for the pool.
Think about
painting.
how much it costs to have lawn service now compared to how much it used to cost.
Oh man, I had it good for so long.
Me too.
And then he's like, I don't do this anymore. And then when I found a new guy, it was more than double what we were paying, which it is what it is. Like, I'm not buying a lawnmower. So
my guy retired.
Oh, man.
I was like, he retired after 16 years.
Man, that's like, he's family, you know? He's at your house every week.
I know.
Even if it's only for 15 minutes.
Yeah, 16 years. I was like, please don't retire. And
Yeah.
Anyway. We'd talk about what happens if people don't have their reports yet.
Mm-hmm. So, because the deadlines have passed, and there are cases, like there is a 45-day window where the report is like finalized before it has to be sent to the unit owners, and the one that's under contract right now, that's exactly what's happening with that one. Like they did one part, but they don't have the structural integrity reserve study done yet, and they were expecting it within 45 days. So they kind of pushed it to the very last minute, this association, it seems like. I don't know for sure, but it just seems that way. So I feel like they're not the only one. And I know there's some other condo owners that I know of who they were very afraid that their association was just going to say, we'll just see what happens if we don't do it.
Yeah.
And there was rumors in her building that the manager was just like, well, we'll just see what happens. I'm sure Tallahassee will give us an extension. And I'm like, that's like a bold move. And that they ended up not. They did what they were supposed to do, but again, last minute, but they have it.
And I think so many people pushed it that now these firms that do them, they're taking longer. They're slammed. Yeah.
Talk about good money for these firms. I wonder if they had any buy-in to these laws.
Lobbying for the laws. Can we have these laws, please?
Man.
Because now they have work, and I mean, it's every year. Right, as these things space out, and the condos have to then do them every 10 years.
Yeah. So if you owned a unit in a condo and you were faced with these big things, would you rather have like a one-time assessment of like a lot of money, or would you rather like a quadruple of your monthly fees to cover it? Because like I asked the people whose stuff quadrupled, I was like, did you get hit with a special assessment or anything? And they were like, no, everything's fully funded and this is just what it is, but that's why it's fully funded, because we pay so much. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then, you know, the other one that's under contract, their fees are more what I would call reasonable, but they got hit with a $30,000 assessment that can be paid over 3 years. So, but even still, for somebody to tell me, you have to give me $10,000. Yeah. And then again next year. And yes, could you spread that out? But that's almost $1,000 a month.
It's crazy.
And it's like when you're in this economy.
And a lot of people are on fixed incomes and budgets and everything else. I think it's really, and this is what's happened to the condo market. This is why the condo, and as a buyer, if you're looking at buying a condo, I mean, it's kind of terrifying. Like, is that going to happen? Hopefully this will prevent that from happening, right?
Right, that's the purpose of it.
They will have the proper reserves. It's been studied by an independent agency who is determining, are they reserving? It's not some guy who
owns a unit in the building and is on the board.
From Oklahoma, nothing against Oklahoma, but retired from Oklahoma, and who knows what he used to do for a living, has no knowledge of accounting or finance, and he's setting the reserve schedule.
This is true.
without contacting anyone to see what things actually
I used to
cost.
think I wanted to live in a condo on the beach one day, maybe in retirement.
Yeah,
What a nice dream. And it's definitely not on my bucket list anymore. They're nice to visit. They're nice to maybe do an Airbnb or something like that. But that's what hotels are for too. So kind of the same idea.
Yeah. I like having a little more control, although houses need a lot of money too.
They do. They do. Yeah. It's, pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think maybe this will improve condos, right? So that there won't be surprises. So if you can afford what it is now and everything's fully funded and, that means that there's not a huge likelihood that it's going to get much worse. Right. Can you imagine if somebody bought in that one where it's quadrupled and then in 2 years it quadrupled again?
Oh my gosh, how could it?
I don't think it could. Like, it's got to be worst case scenario right now, right?
My advice always is, people like small condos, and I'm like, I think they're great, and if you can afford that, it's great. But if you're really trying to be cost conscious, look for one that's had these studies done, that what the costs are, and that's larger. Yes. So the cost is spread between more owners.
Yeah, because if something catastrophic happens, that's an ouch to your wallet for sure. Yeah. I think
we like condos.
Yes, absolutely. I do. They're beautiful. They have some of the best views.
They do.
They really do.
We like condos. So anyway, we don't want to sound negative.
Is that it for today?
That's
All
it.
right, I think so. See you next time. Cheers.